But look, I want to move on to Langwell and your other stuff because we've, in past Coffee with Samso, we haven't talked much about it. But, you know, with the renewed interest in rare earths and the government throwing money, incentives into it, are we going to be expecting Miramar to suddenly, hey, this is something we should do? Because, look, the reason why I'm making this extra long, because I do think all your projects have real concepts that I like.
Yeah. Well, I'm very conceptually driven, as we've sort of already said, but also empirically driven as well. So Langwell is an interesting project. It's really early stage, but it's in a sort of interesting location. It sits between the deflector belt, the Gulliver belt, in the Murchison and Golden Grove. So there's almost like this sort of triangle where you've got Yalgoo, Deflector and Golden Grove, and then Rothsay's down here a bit, and Langwell is in this bit of a greenstone belt in the middle. It's called the Yalgoo Dome, and it's sort of it's really complexly folded and it's been uplifted and all this sort of stuff, but completely underexplored. I think the last bit of work, there's only really been 2 bits of work that are done there. Matana did some sampling out there in 88, I think it was, and they got a high grade 16 gram rock chip in the middle of nowhere in this quartz vein, and then didn't do anything more. And then this company called Jervois Mining did some auger drilling in 2010 across the project and got some really big gold anomalies. And then they followed it up and they did about a dozen air core holes, and most of them not even on our current tenement. There's about 5 or 6 on our current tenement, but they got some rare earths. So they sort of, looked at that and said, oh, this looks pretty interesting. And I dropped it. So that was 2010. And it happened to be open at the time I was looking at it when I was putting together the Miramar projects. And obviously it was near Deflector, which I knew very well because I'd built it. So I thought, there was potential for gold here. There was potential for maybe copper gold like Deflector. And then, I thought there may be some rare earth potential. So we haven't done much there. We did a gravity survey in preparation to try and do an air core program. There's a fair bit of outcrop in the northwestern area, but the rest of it's all covered. And if you look at a lot of the maps, the GL survey maps, it's a lot of granite. There's not much greenstone there. So we did a gravity survey to see if we could outline a bit more greenstone, and it looks like there's a bit more than what's mapped. But then, when we were watching all the, I guess I don't want to use the word hoo-ha, but the hoo-ha about rare earths and lithium and stuff. And we started looking at some of the old GL survey data. And there's a whole heap of pegmatites at Langwell that have been mapped but never sampled. So there's about 50 pegmatites just in one area over about a 7 kilometre strike length. And they're all different orientations and stuff. So I thought, okay, well this is sort of interesting. We don't know what's going on there. There's no mention in the notes really of anything apart from the fact that they're pegmatites. They talk about strike and widths and stuff. Yeah, sort of couple of metre widths, but for a pegmatite that's reasonable. Like pegmatites are not normally very wide. There's pegmatites everywhere. So I thought, we'll have a look at this. And then of course you've got all these pegmatites, and then you've got about 5 air core holes on the whole project, and one of them happens to have 4 metres at 1500 ppm total rare earths. So okay, well it's a lot of gneiss. There's a lot of gneiss there, granitic gneiss, and my limited knowledge of pegmatites, is that the lithium pegmatites tend to be more in the sort of greenstones or sediments next to the granite where they come from, but the rare earth bearing pegmatites seem to be more prevalent in the gneisses, in the gneissic terrain. So I thought, okay, well, let's go have a look at that. So actually we've just had 2 guys out there this week, and they've gone and sampled as many of these pegmatites as they could find, and we're going to get them assayed. We'll do lithium and rare earths just to see what's going on. They've gone and had a look, see if they can find the hole that had the rare earths in it as well. And we really don't know. And in the meantime, I got hold of some regional radiometric data, and radiometric data, is potassium, thorium, uranium, and that can be quite useful in doing this rare earth exploration as well. And what you see when you look at the potassium values over the area is all these linear trends, and it's a different trend to the geology. And so to me, that they look like pegmatites. So there's a whole heap up where the mapped ones are, but there's a whole heap that look like this, sort of just under a bit of thin cover. So if these samples that we put in have any sort of rare earth potential, then there's a whole swarm of these pegmatites up there that have never had any work at all. So it's a left field thing, right? It's not the main focus of the company, but it's nice to have these sort of other things that you can look at, especially if you're like waiting for a rig for Glandor, or you're waiting for the weather to calm down so you can get up to Onslow or somewhere like that. It's good to have these other things that you can quickly go out and have a look at. And it's only about a 3-hour drive from Perth. It's not as close as Julimar, but you can get out there quite quickly, do a couple of days work and get back and not have, not had a huge logistical exercise. So it's interesting.
If you got results back and they're kicking rare earths, you might have a good dilemma.
Yeah.
Which one to go for, right?
You never know. I guess I'm a bit nervous about, like I said, chasing this week's favourite. Because this week's favourite is next week's not favourite.
Yeah.
But, you can't ignore that stuff. You can't ignore it completely. So we'll see what happens.